Omar ibn Al Khattab, this man conquered more land than anyone in history. He led one of the largest armies ever assembled, and he did all this after being a nobody. This is the story of Umar ibn Al Khattab, the man who conquered half the world. The year is 634 CE, and our story begins in a small village called Al-Fustat. At the time it was nothing more than a Bedouin camp inhabited by a small tribe known as the Juma. One night a merchant from Mecca named Uthman ibn Affan passed by the camp and decided to set up camp for the night.
Ho, ho, ho!
Little did he know that he would change history before the next sunrise. That's because while he was sleeping, Omar ibn Al Khattab, a tribal chief, raided his camp and stole everything he had. When Osman returned to his things stolen, he went straight to the leader of the tribe and demanded they return his things or face the consequences. The chief refused, so Osman did the only thing he could. He took the matter to Prophet Muhammad himself. When Muhammad heard about what happened, he got angry and went to the village where Omar ruled.
Ho, ho, ho!
As he walked into the village, he heard Omar bragging to the other villagers about how he made a fortune off the raid. As soon as Omar saw the Prophet, he tried to run away, but Muhammad was faster and stopped him in his tracks. The two then went outside the village where Muhammad reprimanded Omar for his actions. To make amends, Muhammad asked Omar to give back what he stole, which he did without hesitation. And as a reward, Muhammad gave Omar something even better. He offered him the chance to become Muslim. This offer surprised Omar.
Ho, ho, ho!
You see, up until this point, Omar was a staunch enemy of the Muslims. He actively fought against them and even imprisoned some of their members. But he couldn't refuse the offer, so he became Muslim right there and then. After becoming Muslim, Omar became one of the most devoted followers of Muhammad and eventually one of the most influential leaders in the Islamic world. In fact, he would go on to become the second caliph after the death of Prophet Muhammad. But before we get to that point, let's take a closer look at his early life.
Ho, ho, ho!
Omar was born in Mecca around the year 584. Not much is known about his family, but his father was a chief of the powerful clan of Abdul Shams. At the time, the tribes of Mecca were fiercely independent and often clashed with each other. So Omar grew up learning how to fight. By the age of 20, he was already a respected warrior and was given the nickname Faru al-Zana, which means Lion of the Desert. With his reputation as a fierce fighter, Omar was able to rise through the ranks and eventually became chief of his tribe, the Juma.
Ho, ho, ho!
As chief, Omar continued to expand his power and influence and soon controlled most of Mecca. It was during this time that he met Prophet Muhammad and changed the course of history forever. After converting to Islam, Omar became one of the most ardent supporters of the faith and played a key role in the Muslim victory at the Battle of Badr in 624. This was a major turning point in the early history of Islam and established the Muslims as a major force to be reckoned with.
Ho, ho, ho!
But despite their victory at Badr, the Muslims were still a small minority in Mecca and faced constant persecution from the polytheists. In 627, Muhammad and his followers migrated to Medina, which would become the first capital of Islam. Although Omar continued to support the Muslim cause, he remained in Mecca for a few more years, probably to keep an eye on things. Eventually, though, he joined the Muslims in Medina and became one of the leading members of the community. It was during this time that he earned the title Faruq, which means the one who distinguishes right from wrong.
Ho, ho, ho!
As Faruq, Omar helped spread the message of Islam throughout Arabia and played a key role in the Muslim victory at the Battle of Uhud in 625. But despite their victories, the Muslims were still vulnerable. Attacks from neighboring tribes were common, and the Muslims needed a strong leader to protect them. That's why when Abu Bakr died in 634, Omar was chosen as the second Caliph of Islam. At first, Omar was hesitant to accept the position, but eventually agreed.
Ho, ho, ho!
As Caliph, Omar faced many challenges. The surrounding tribes were still not Muslim, and the Meccans were plotting to assassinate him. But Omar was up to the task. He was a brilliant military strategist and was able to defeat the Meccans and bring them under the rule of Islam. He also expanded the empire beyond Arabia and into Syria, Palestine, and Iraq. In fact, Omar was responsible for the creation of one of the largest armies in ancient history. At its peak, it had over 70,000 soldiers.
Ho, ho, ho!
These soldiers weren't mercenaries or conscripts, but volunteers who pledged their allegiance to the Muslim community. What's more, this army didn't have a standing navy or air force, but was entirely composed of infantry. And yet this army was able to conquer more territory than any other army in history. But how did Omar do it? Well, one reason was that Omar was a brilliant military strategist. He was able to defeat larger and more powerful armies by using unconventional tactics.
Ho, ho, ho!
For example, at the Battle of the Bridge of Kausanus in 636, Omar led his troops across the river and ambushed the Persian army. He also used psychological warfare to great effect. For example, at the Siege of Jerusalem in 637, Omar pretended to be retreating when in reality he was planning an attack. The ruse worked like a charm, and the Muslim army was able to capture the city. Another reason for the success of the Muslim army was the religious fervor of its soldiers. They were fighting for a higher cause, and were willing to make great sacrifices.
Ho, ho, ho!
This is evident in the Hadith, which is a collection of the Prophet Muhammad's sayings and teachings. In one Hadith, Omar is quoted as saying, "I would like my people to know that if a person is killed while defending himself against those who are trying to destroy Islam, his reward will be multiplied many times." This shows the level of commitment and dedication that the Muslim soldiers had. But perhaps the greatest testament to Omar's military genius is the fact that he was able to hold on to the territories he conquered.
Ho, ho, ho!
He established a stable and efficient government that was able to collect taxes and maintain order. He also appointed loyal and competent governors to oversee the provinces. All of these factors allowed the Muslim army to remain strong and successful long after Omar's death in 644. So, what exactly was the extent of this vast empire? Well, in terms of territory, the Muslim conquests under Omar extended from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to the Indus River in the east, and from North Africa to the borders of China.
Ho, ho, ho!
This vast empire encompassed modern-day Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. To put into perspective just how vast this empire was, it covered over 2 million square miles, which is equivalent to almost 60 of the contiguous United States. What's more, the Muslim conquests resulted in the subjugation of over 50 million people belonging to various cultures and religions such as Persians, Arabs, Berbers, Kurds, Turks, Christians, and Jews.
Ho, ho, ho!
In terms of population, this empire was the largest in the history of the world up until the 20th century. But despite its size and diversity, the Muslim empire was not without its problems. The vast distances made it difficult to govern effectively, and the different cultures and religions of the subjects often caused friction. Additionally, the rapid pace of the conquests created administrative and logistical challenges. Despite these challenges, however, The Muslim empire flourished during Omar's reign. The economy was strong, trade flourished, and the arts and sciences thrived.
Ho, ho, ho!
Omar was a patron of the arts and sciences, and his court was a center of intellectual activity. He also established a number of institutions to promote education and scholarship, such as the House of Wisdom, which was a library and research center in Baghdad. In addition to his cultural contributions, Omar was also a devout Muslim who worked to spread the message of Islam throughout his empire. He sent missionaries to far-off lands such as India and China, and he built mosques and madrasas, which are Islamic schools, throughout his domain.
Ho, ho, ho!
Despite his many accomplishments, however, Omar's legacy is sometimes overshadowed by his brutality. He was known for his harsh punishments and his intolerance of dissent. He also waged a number of brutal campaigns against non-Muslims, such as the Muslim conquest of Persia and the Muslim conquest of Egypt. While these conquests were significant in expanding the reach of Islam, they were also marked by violence and bloodshed. Nevertheless, Omar's contributions to the development of Islam and his impact on world history are undeniable.
Ho, ho, ho!
He was a brilliant military strategist and a visionary leader who helped shape the course of human history. His empire was the largest in the ancient world, and his legacy continues to be felt today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up. We appreciate your support and hope you continue to watch our videos.
Ho, ho, ho!